So let me just walk you through 12 principles. And again, my purpose is to help boys become men of empathy and integrity who lead, be responsible, and change the world for good. So I've got my values just like you do, and my definition of success. My first principle is this: I think sports ought to be co-curricular. Sports are not extracurricular. Extracurricular implies that it's something that begins at the end of the educational day. Boy, I would say sports ought to be the last classroom of the day. It ought to be built on the same educational philosophy that the school is run on. Boy, you can't have an educational philosophy and then set up a sports program that violates the fundamental principles of that. So you think about a math teacher. Now that math teacher in the school is held responsible for moving that class from point A to point B in terms of content during the semester or the season. In the math class, you would never tolerate a math teacher only teaching to the 5 or 10 or 11 best students. Boy, your job is to make sure that every student becomes the best math student they're capable of becoming. In the math class, you would never tolerate a teacher grabbing, swearing, screaming, shaming some kid because they got an equation wrong. Why in the world do we think we can put a whistle on that math teacher, set them out on some kind of athletic arena, and then let them coach in a way that violates the very fundamental foundations of education? Boy, it needs to be seen as co-curricular. Sports are a thing. If you're with a school, if you're a high school or elementary school or college coach, sports ought to be something that connects to the mission of the school. It ought to increase school pride, the attachment of the athletes to the school. It has to be seen as co-curricular. So if your players are going to be student athletes, then to me as a coach, we need to be teacher coaches. And we've got to figure out what is the curriculum that we're going to come and deliver to our players in order to fulfill our purpose statement. How do I create a culture? How do I create a curriculum to help boys become men of empathy and integrity, who lead, be responsible, change the world for good? But I've got to understand first and foremost, boy, I'm a teacher coach. I'm not just a coach. I'm not just trying to create successful athletes. I'm creating successful human beings. So John Wooden, the great UCLA Hall of Fame coach, boy, he always says boy, if he had it in his way, he would never put the word coach on his business card or on his letterhead. He always considered himself a teacher. And I think all of us have this incredible opportunity to teach. We've just got to make a discernment what we're going to teach in the context of sports. So you can do all of this kind of co-curricular. Boy, you can teach players their own self-awareness, their social awareness. You want to give them a relational skill development and then responsible decision-making. These things all go hand in hand in day-to-day practices and in the context of a season. So we ought to be co-curricular. We ought to be teacher coaches. We've got to have something to help develop to fulfill the purpose of the impact we want to make in the lives of those players.